I wish I had never taken this family trip to Maine. Things might have been different. I might have been different. My family would still be here today. But all because of one night that was supposed to bring our family together. Our short vacation turned into a tragedy. The doctor told me to write down this horrible night. I hope by doing so, I will discover a key to why this is happening to me and my family. I pray this nightmare will come to an end. My name is Nicholas Banner, and all I can say to my family is, I'm sorry. I never saw anything like this coming, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. A family vacation, so I couldn't see why not. I just wanted to take my beautiful wife Arlene and my 10-year-old stepdaughter Bernadette someplace nice. I didn't want to take them to some crazy resort or some boring old country lodge. I wanted them to go out, feel free, and see the open land. Get away from the busy life that we know in Baltimore. It was Bernadette's idea to go to Maine. I thought she needed this vacation the most. Her mother felt that they were not getting along, and most of the time Bernadette just ignored me until she wanted something. Nick, Bernadette would say, could you drive me to the mall? I hated it when she called me Nick. It was not like that in the beginning. I thought Bernadette used to love me, and I always loved her. I never knew if she accepted me as a father figure or not. Her real father just walked out one day and never returned. Arlene always reassured me that I was a good father and a great husband. I remember when I first met my wife. A friend of ours from work set us up on a blind date. We met at a little watering hole inside a Marriott. The hotel was the halfway point of each of our travel distances. She was the most beautiful woman that I had ever seen. Her beautiful long brown hair swayed back and forth when she walked. Her coffee-colored eyes shined with love through my soul. That night we sat and talked for hours. Neither of us wanted to go home. The next 3 days we saw each other, and on the 4th day, I met Bernadette. It was a magical moment. During the next 3 weeks, I felt we started to become closer, like a family. One day Arlene turned to me and asked if she could be my wife. I would have been an idiot not to say yes. We got married 4 days later, and then I took the 3 of us on a nice honeymoon trip. I felt that being part of a family should mean being together, and that's just what we did. I spent as much time as I could with my family. We would go on day trips from time to time, but over the months, work had gotten the best of me, and those trips became less and less frequent. I believe it was my job that put a strain on our family outings. Even Bernadette seemed different. Arlene would tell me that her change was from the hardship of becoming a teenager, but I saw something else, something cold. Maybe it was time for another family trip. Bernadette asked her mom if we could go to Maine, and when both of them asked me if we could go, I had to say yes. I called my manager at work and told him that I was starting my vacation now. We packed our suitcases and Bernadette mapped out the road directions for our long travel. The internet can be a wonderful tool. Just click on the map and find a nice bed and breakfast. I told her to map out a nice scenic route for us to take. I did not want to drive the turnpike or a major highway. Driving was half the trip, and I thought exploring the back roads of our country would be a good experience. I knew it would take longer this way, but all we had was time. Time meant not to rush, not to sit at work, not to wake up or go to bed at a set time. Time was free. We packed the car and started our way to the state of Maine. The drive was more than amazing. It seemed as if our family was reborn, and there would be no stopping us from having fun. Along the way, we sang songs, joked, and waved to the other cars. We had a ball driving through all the different states: New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. Then we all let out a huge cheer when we finally drove into Maine. What a great time we were having. The only time that I didn't think about was the time it would take for us to get to Maine. I knew it would be around nightfall, hopefully 7 or 8 p.m. I never thought it would hit midnight. Sometimes you forget that you're a parent and that there are no such things as taking a road trip all the way through. You forget things such as bathroom breaks, lunch breaks, and scenic view just ahead breaks. I looked at the map that Bernadette had printed out from the computer. I knew that we were in Maine, and I knew that we were near a town called Upton. The map labeled every road sign, bridge, and exit ramp around us. But one thing that the map never listed, the one thing that affected my life, was that one road. The long, unpaved road is filled with blackness from the tall trees and dense woods that surround it. They never showed this road on the map, but I took it anyway with the help of my encouraging family. "Hey Nick, let's go this way," Bernadette said. "It looks cool." "I don't think so," I said hoarsely. I hated it when she called me Nick. "Come on," Arlene responded. "Where's your taste for adventure?" As I turned onto the darkened road, I could only watch as the skyline above disappeared from my eyes. Not even the light of the moon could penetrate this darkened road. I found out much later that the locals did not use this road unless you were a doctor of the Hillsborough Wellness Center. Sounds like a pleasant name, if you didn't know it was for the violently disturbed and the criminally insane. I never saw that sign as I continued to drive that long and bumpy road. Then again, I guess that's not something people would like to advertise. The road was long. I wondered if I should turn around and head back to the main road. I started becoming annoyed. "This isn't my idea of a vacation," I muttered. "Relax." I looked into all 3 mirrors, but only darkness could I see. The world seemed to close its door behind me. "Look up there," Bernadette said excitedly. I saw the flashing yellow light that Bernadette had pointed out. At first, I thought it was a road construction sign, but as I drove closer, the light turned into 2 blinking hazard lights from an old white sedan. The car stood lopsided as a rusted jack held it in place. A tire was lying on the roadside next to the car. It looked damaged and unusable. As I slowed down to a crawl, my wife asked the same question that I was thinking. "I wonder where the owner is?" I did not answer, because I saw someone walking up the road in front of us. I drove up to see a man. I noticed that he was wearing all white, including his pants and jacket. When we were close enough to the man, my beautiful wife Arlene rolled down the window and stuck her head out to see if the man needed any assistance. I never saw his face, but I saw the shiny object in his hand as he raised it over his shoulder. I wanted to pull Arlene away from the window, but I could not move. All I could do was watch this man swinging himself around and hitting my wife with a large killer instrument. Her body collapsed on top of mine. She didn't seem to move, but I could feel her warm body lying against my lap. I screamed out her name, but my wife never answered. I looked down to see Arlene's headless body lying there motionless. I screamed again, but this time in horror, and then raced my foot onto the accelerator. I don't remember hitting the tree, but when I awoke from my dizziness, I saw the front end and hood were crushed from the impact. All the doors were wide open as a strong smell of antifreeze surrounded the car. I looked where my wife was sitting, but she was no longer there. I turned around and Bernadette was also missing. I ran out of the car and checked each side in case they were ejected. During the impact, I couldn't find a trace of either one. Maybe it was all a bad dream. Maybe Arlene and Bernadette were okay. Perhaps I had fallen asleep while I was driving and hit the tree. They couldn't wake me up after the accident and went for help. That's something Arlene would do. She was always so caring. Didn't matter who you were or what you had. She would stop and help out anyone. That was just her nature. As I walked back to the main road, I knew it had to be a dream, but it seemed so real. I kept asking myself where on the trip I fell asleep. Before I could finish my train of thought, I saw a shadowy object up ahead. "It can't be," I remembered saying as I ran to the object that I'd seen before. The white sedan sat in its place. Was it a dream? I asked myself as I noticed something different. The hazards were no longer on. I wondered if the battery had died. I reached the driver's side door, placed my hand through the open window, and pulled the switch for the headlights. They lit up the road in front of me. I looked inside the car and saw the keys hanging from the ignition. If I could get this car started, I could go and get help. After remembering seeing the damaged tire on the road, I knew I needed to change it. I took the keys out of the ignition and walked over to the trunk hoping to find the spare in there. I inserted the key and turned it to the right. The door sprung open and the light of the trunk flickered on. Inside, I saw a man in a fishing garment. His body stayed still. His motionless eyes stared back at me. His garment was drenched in blood, as a silver-bladed axe rested across his lifeless body. I was in too much shock to scream when I realized that this was all a true nightmare. So many questions filled my soul, but none had answers. As I searched for some kind of hope for my missing family, I heard a familiar sound coming towards me. What I saw was a car, as it shined its burning headlights into my worried eyes. The driver stopped. "Are you okay?" He asked. I see you have a flat there. No, it's not mine, I blurted out. I need to get to a phone. I need to call the police. Well then, you'd better hop on in. I looked at the man as I climbed into his dark Chevy Blazer. He was wearing black pants and a blue shirt. Feeling a little safer now, I leaned back into the seat. We drove off and continued down the darkened road. You might want to take some of these, the man said and pulled out a small bottle of tablets from his shirt pocket. No thanks, I just can't seem to. Trust me, I'm a doctor. Dr. Nofield. The pills will help you calm down, and you'll remember everything that happened tonight when you talk to the police. I felt better knowing I had a doctor at my side. I took the pills and was about to swallow them whole when the good doctor told me there was some juice in his glove compartment. I opened the compartment in front of me and took the bottle in my hand. My other hand raised the pills into my mouth and I swallowed them down with some very bad-tasting juice. Sorry, I guess that's been in there longer than I thought, the doctor said after seeing the bitter look on my face. We're almost there. Where are we going? The Hillsborough Wellness Center is the closest phone you'll find in this area, Dr. Nofield explained. I should know, I work there. We drove a little further, and I saw my car still hugging tightly to the tree. Is that yours? Yes. Are we almost there? I asked as I started to feel queasy. Only another mile down the road. What is the wellness center? I questioned, as something felt heavy in my head. It's a clinic for special cases of the mentally disturbed. Doc, what's wrong with me? I shouted. I feel so dizzy, my head. Everything looks so fuzzy. Why can't I? When I awoke, I had no idea what happened to me. My head felt heavy with pain. I wished I knew the time and how long I was out for. I noticed I was lying on a white and tan cot and looked around the small room I was in. The walls looked as if they were made of a white sponge on each side of me, except for one wall where the door was. That was all glass. On the side of the bed, on a table, next to the bedpan, was a pad and pencil. On the first page was a written instruction. Please write down everything you remember about tonight. Signed Dr. Nofield. So that is my story, Dr. Nofield. I hope you and the police can help me find my family. I heard a knock on the glass window. It was the doctor. How are you feeling? Dr. Nofield asked as he spoke through the little voice holes in the glass. Better. Now let me out of here so I can find my family, I demanded. It's almost 5:30 a.m., the doctor said as he looked down at his silver wristwatch. Too bad about Mr. Robertson. He usually opens his shop about now. What? I asked. Wait. He shook his head, trying to gain some sense of control. You see, Dr. Nofield continued, Mr. Robertson usually goes fishing before he opens his store, but at the time I thought he was you and Daddy. A little girl's voice echoed from the hallway. I walked to the glass window. I saw that it was Bernadette as she ran down the hallway towards him. Thank God she's alive, I thought. Bernadette ran to the window, looked into the glass, and started to wave. Honey, I gleaned. I'm so happy to see you. I thought I would never see you again. Nick? Yes, Angel. I used to hate it when she called me by my first name, but right now I was just so happy to see her. I want you to meet my real daddy, she said, hugging Dr. Nofield. He's a doctor. Bernadette? I asked, feeling lost and confused. Sorry, Nick, the doctor said. Like I was saying, I thought Mr. Robertson was you. Otherwise, I would have never killed the man. Oh, Arlene. Poor Arlene. I'm sorry about what I did to her. She was a good mother. Just too bad we never saw eye to eye. But I knew I couldn't have. Bernadette has another father. It just didn't seem right. I could only watch as Bernadette smiled up at her real father. You see, the doctor continued, I would email Bernadette from time to time and ask her to keep the conversations our little secret. But when she told me about you and how she wished that I would be her daddy again, I didn't know what to do. So I thought up this main trip. I gave Bernadette all the driving directions and points of interest to stop along the way. To my amazement, everything worked out perfectly. Well, except for Mr. Robertson, but right now he and Arlene are in the white sedan at the bottom of my private lake. Dr. Nofield looked down at his watch again. You'll never get away with this, I shouted out. Well, actually, Nick, I already have. I hope you enjoy your stay. Here at the wellness center. Come on, precious. Dr. Nofield said as he took Bernadette's hand and started to walk down the long white hallway. Bye, Nick, Bernadette said happily as she waved goodbye.